Most people believe they are individuals shaping their own lives. Yet if we look closely, something surprising begins to appear. Much of what we call individuality is quietly guided by invisible social rules we rarely notice. We think we are choosing freely, but in many cases we are simply performing the expectations of the culture around us. If you've ever felt uncomfortable sharing an opinion because you worried how others might react, if you've ever compared your achievements to someone else's and suddenly felt behind in life, or if you've ever wondered why certain behaviors feel normal in one country but strange in another, then you have already encountered the invisible influence of culture. Maybe you have noticed how success means one thing in one place and something entirely different somewhere else. In the next few minutes, you will begin to see that individuality itself has many forms. We will explore how different societies quietly shape the way people think about ambition, belonging, and identity. We will look at a fascinating cultural idea called the Law of Jante, and we will explore 4 psychological patterns that researchers call horizontal individualism, vertical individualism, horizontal collectivism, and vertical collectivism. Once you see these patterns, something remarkable happens. The way people behave across cultures suddenly starts to make sense. Let us begin with a simple observation. Human beings are social creatures. For most of our evolutionary history, survival depended on belonging to a group. If you were rejected by your tribe thousands of years ago, your chances of survival were extremely small. Because of this, our brains evolved to be highly sensitive to social expectations. We constantly scan our environment to understand what behavior will be accepted and what behavior might lead to exclusion. But different societies develop different ways of organizing these expectations. In some cultures, the individual is emphasized. People are encouraged to stand out, pursue personal goals, and define their identity through personal achievement. In other cultures, the collective is emphasized. Harmony, family loyalty, and social responsibility become central values. Neither approach is inherently better or worse. They simply reflect different historical and social experiences. Consider the United States, which is often described as one of the most individualistic societies in the world. From childhood, people are encouraged to be yourself, to pursue personal dreams, and to believe that success comes from individual effort. The cultural story celebrates the self-made entrepreneur, the athlete who rises from poverty to fame, the artist who challenges tradition. Individual freedom becomes a core value. This form of individualism often takes what psychologists call a vertical structure. In vertical individualism, people value independence but also accept competition and hierarchy. Success means rising above others. Think of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs racing to build billion-dollar companies, or professional athletes competing for championships and recognition. The emphasis is on personal achievement and distinction. Vertical individualism can generate incredible innovation and ambition. It encourages people to take risks and challenge existing systems, yet it also creates pressure. If success is personal, then failure also feels personal. The individual carries the burden of proving their worth through performance. Now imagine a different environment. Consider countries like Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. These societies also value individuality, but they express it differently. Instead of celebrating hierarchy and competition, they emphasize equality and modesty. People are encouraged to be independent, but not to believe they are superior to others. This brings us to the fascinating cultural concept known as the Law of Jante. The Law of Jante is not a legal law, but a social attitude deeply embedded in Scandinavian culture. It can be summarized through an unwritten rule: do not think you are better than anyone else. The message of Jante discourages boasting about personal success or placing oneself above the group. Achievement is not rejected, but it is expected to remain humble. A successful entrepreneur might still ride a bicycle to work. A wealthy person might avoid displaying luxury. Social equality is valued more than personal dominance. This cultural mindset represents what psychologists call Horizontal individualism. In horizontal individualism, people see themselves as independent individuals, but they also believe everyone is fundamentally equal. Personal freedom exists alongside social equality. In practical terms, this means people are free to pursue their own goals, but they do not feel a strong need to compete for status. Success is appreciated, but humility remains important. The emphasis is on balance rather than hierarchy. Now let us move toward collectivist cultures, where belonging to the group becomes more central than individual distinction. In many East Asian societies, including Japan, China, and Korea, the idea of the self is closely tied to family, community, and social roles. Personal identity is shaped through relationships. Instead of asking, "Who am I?" independently, the cultural mindset often asks, "What is my place within the group?" In some collectivist societies, equality and cooperation are emphasized. This is known as horizontal collectivism. People see themselves as part of a larger community where everyone works together. Relationships are prioritized over competition. Community well-being becomes more important than individual recognition. Certain traditional villages or communal societies reflect this mindset. People share resources, make decisions collectively, and view personal success as intertwined with the success of the group. Individual ambition is balanced with social harmony. But collectivism can also take a vertical form. Vertical collectivism emphasizes loyalty and respect for hierarchy within the group. Family elders, authority figures, and social roles carry strong influence. In such societies, individuals may sacrifice personal desires to maintain group stability and honor. China historically reflects many elements of vertical collectivism. Respect for elders, loyalty to family, and obedience to social structures are deeply rooted values. Similarly, in Japan, corporate culture often emphasizes loyalty to the organization and long-term commitment to the group. These cultural frameworks shape the way people think about ambition, responsibility, and belonging. To understand how powerful these influences are, imagine two young professionals starting their careers. One grows up in a highly individualistic culture like the United States. From childhood, they are encouraged to pursue their passions and differentiate themselves from others. When they enter the workforce, they may feel comfortable challenging authority, negotiating salaries, or changing companies frequently to advance their career. Now imagine another professional raised in a collectivist culture where loyalty and group harmony are highly valued. They may feel a strong sense of responsibility toward their family and organization. Instead of aggressively promoting themselves, they may prioritize maintaining stable relationships within the group. Neither person is right or wrong. They are simply responding to the cultural narratives that shaped their understanding of what it means to live a meaningful life. But here is where the story becomes even more interesting. In our modern world, globalization is blending these cultural models together. A young entrepreneur in Tokyo may admire Silicon Valley innovation while still feeling loyalty toward traditional expectations. A student in Europe may absorb American ideals of self-expression, while also growing up within a social welfare culture that values equality and community. As these cultural influences intersect, individuals often find themselves navigating multiple identities simultaneously. This creates a fascinating psychological question. How much of our personality truly belongs to us, and how much is inherited from the social systems we inhabit? When we begin to observe culture this way, something important happens. The invisible rules guiding human behavior become visible. We realize that our sense of identity is not fixed, but constantly shaped by the environment around us. And once we see that, a deeper realization begins to emerge. The self is not simply an isolated individual. It is a conversation between the individual and the culture that surrounds them. When you begin to see culture this way, a curious thing happens. Behaviors that once seemed puzzling start to make sense. The colleague who constantly promotes their own achievements may not simply be arrogant. They may come from an environment where standing out is expected. The friend who hesitates to express disagreement may not lack confidence. They may come from a culture where harmony matters more than winning an argument. In other words, people are often not just expressing their personalities, they are expressing the cultural frameworks that shape their understanding of how a person should behave. Cultures evolve. Generations reinterpret values. What one era considers rebellious, another may consider normal. And perhaps that is the most fascinating part of the story. Culture is not something outside of us. It is something we participate in shaping every day. Through our choices, our conversations, and our values, we quietly influence the direction our societies move. Which means the question is not only what culture has shaped us. The question is, what kind of culture we are helping to shape for the future. And when you begin to think about culture this way, something changes in how you see yourself. You realize that identity is not simply inherited. It is also created. Each person becomes a bridge between the past they received and the future they will influence. And in that realization, individuality and collectivism stop looking like opposites. They begin to look like partners in the ongoing story of human life. Thank you for watching. Please share with others and subscribe for more videos.